Here is the dilemma for Democrats. Their young people, their key constituency, not only don't like their own civilization, they like the wrong one. They actually think Hamas is a liberation movement. They chant for the Houthis. They're chanting, "We will honor our martyrs" at Yale. They're looking for love in all the wrong countries. At an AOC Bernie Sanders rally in Idaho last month, someone threw a Palestinian flag over an American flag, and the crowd erupted in approval. What should have happened after that is one of the adults on stage should have told their young, loyal followers, this is not a symbol of freedom. This is.
What happens when Bill Maher snaps harder than your uncle after 3 bourbons at Thanksgiving? You get a verbal missile locked on AOC and the Democrats, detonated right in the middle of the liberal echo chamber. Because apparently, saying you love your country is now controversial. If you thought politics was already messy, Maher just threw a live grenade, and trust us, you'll want to hear what he said before Twitter tries to cancel him for the 47th time this week.
Robotic tripods could be vaporizing New Jersey. Democrats would point out how the death lasers were disproportionately affecting low-income communities and people of color, and AOC would tweet, "Stop demonizing the Martian X community."
Maher didn't go full meltdown on live TV. This was the calm, composed version. Comedian meets philosopher meets executioner. The sarcasm, razor sharp. The twist? He didn't aim at his usual conservative punching bags. This time he turned the flamethrower inward, incinerating the progressive wing of his own ideological backyard. Nobody saw it coming, least of all the left.
As a Democrat, you were there with him, but he does seem to be the voice of reason in that party these days.
No question, and he was 100% correct when he said it on air the other day, and I couldn't agree with him more. The fact is, you don't see them marching in the streets or storming buildings in support of Laken Riley, who was murdered by an illegal immigrant, or for Edon Alexander, who is now rescued from captivity.
Let's be clear. Maher didn't just throw a jab, he went nuclear. AOC. Torched. The broader cult of left-wing gloom. Incinerated. It was less a critique and more a bonfire, burning down the brittle facade of progressive patriotism, if you can even call it that. Because in their world, waving the flag is problematic, optimism is toxic, and loving America is practically a hate crime.
If the thought leaders in the Democratic Party keep encouraging and not rebuking the idea that America is cringe and the people who run Gaza are great, the Democrats are doomed. Alyssa Slotkin's right. Liberals are weak and woke, especially the white ones, and they indulge all sorts of nonsense from their kids. So talk to your children and remind them, you don't really want to live like your heroes in Hamas. All the you do all day, it was all made in America. Your smartphone, your Grubhub, your freedom to bitch about America, that's all Americans.
This wasn't a political take. It was a eulogy for common sense. Hosted by the last rational liberal on cable. Maher didn't just criticize Democrats. He gutted the left's holy trinity. Performative victimhood, competitive grievance collecting, and the relentless urge to cancel America like it's a forgotten Netflix show. The mood? Rage is a brand, misery is identity. And if you're not mad in public, are you even progressive?
I'm standing up to my withering questioning about the Republicans. Now let's get to the Democrats. Okay. Now here's the problem for all the people who are upset about what the Republicans are doing. This was in the New York Times of all places this week. Democratic parties. Many Americans say they do not believe the Democratic Party is focused on the issues that matter most to them. So if you think all this Trump stuff is going to go away because the other party is going to come in, well, that may not be the case.
In Maher's world, loving your country doesn't mean cosplaying as a bald eagle at a monster truck rally. It means understanding nuance that yes, America has scars, deep ones, but it's still the place where you can tweet your outrage while sipping $7 oat milk lattes under central air. But apparently, even that's offensive now. Maher torched the entire trend of performative activism, where the flag isn't a symbol of unity but a trigger for progressive rage. These days, waving an American flag will get you side-eyed faster than forgetting someone's 17-part pronouns at a vegan co-op poetry slam. He didn't need AOC in the room to dismantle the ideology she's helped brand. It wasn't personal, it was philosophical. He went after the movement that treats patriotism as problematic and history as nothing but a criminal record. Maher, always the equal opportunity critic, reminded us that being loyal to an ideology doesn't mean going silent while your side swan dives into a pit of self-flagellating, grievance-fueled nonsense. If your idea of progress is convincing people their country is a flaming dumpster of failure, congrats. You're not selling change, you're hawking despair disguised as virtue. And Maher, he's not buying it. He's busy returning the whole package, receipt and all, by setting it on fire.
Finally, new roll. Let's hear it for Democratic politicians who keep it real. Senator Alyssa Slotkin of Michigan says Democrats are, quote, weak and woke and should get some goddamn alpha energy and need to retake the flag. I gotta say this.
Bill Maher, ever the OG liberal with a flamethrower for hypocrisy, finally had it with the left's favorite new pastime: Olympic-level America bashing. He all but shouted, hey, maybe hating the country that gave you freedom, fame, and a verified Twitter handle is just a tad ungrateful. Sure, he didn't mention AOC every 5 seconds, but he didn't need to. Her brand of activist thespian politics was all over the wall like a Jackson Pollock piece made from TikTok filters and student debt. Maher's fed up with the constant narrative that America is a dystopian nightmare that began with a pilgrim stubbing his toe on Plymouth Rock and discovering institutional racism. What set him off wasn't just the tone, it was the smugness, the chronic victimhood. The idea that to be a real Democrat now, you have to act like you're being held hostage by the Constitution while still having enough free time to blog about the cultural appropriation of brunch. He was practically begging for nuance, but nuance, like moderate Democrats and basic common sense, has been exiled, probably hiding out somewhere with civility and decent Twitter threads. Because now praising America even slightly gets you labeled as a walking "don't tread on me" flag, seconds away from launching fireworks off a lifted pickup yelling about Benghazi.
Finally, new roll. Let's hear it for Democratic politicians who keep it real. Senator Alyssa Slotkin of Michigan says Democrats are, quote, weak and woke and should get some goddamn alpha energy and need to fucking retake the flag. I gotta say this. I love this new trend where politicians say fuck and shit.
And Maher, equal parts liberal, iconoclast, and nonsense-allergic curmudgeon, dared to point out the irony. The irony of Americans trashing their country from the comfort of a system that lets them do so without consequence. The irony of people labeling the U.S. a fascist state when they've clearly never lived under one. The irony of anti-capitalist influencers doing sponsored posts from iPhones while sipping matcha in Affleischer. He dissected it all with the precision of a roast master turned surgeon. He didn't mock patriotism, he mocked how the left twisted it into a slur. Now, saying you like your country earns you a wellness check or accusations of radicalization via barbecue. And AOC, she's the crown jewel of this theater. From cryptic socialist slogans on $30,000 Met Gala gowns to framing every economic bill like it's Star Wars, Empire versus Rebellion, her brand screams, the system is evil, but smash that follow button.
But here's the thing. Senator Slotkin is a serious person. She's a former CIA agent. You know how every streaming action movie now is about a soccer mom who used to be in the CIA? Okay, that's really her. So we should listen to her because she's right. Lady Deadpool is right. Democrats should reclaim the flag and then get it clean because someone's been humping it.
Maher saw through the performance. He called out the cosplay, the way certain politicians treat America like it's Voldemort. Unnameable, unforgivable, yet somehow their golden ticket to fame, influence, and branded tote bags. And the best part, he didn't shout. He didn't need a podium or a rally, just a smirk, a camera, and 2 decades of watching the left slowly cannibalize itself. And no, it wasn't just AOC in his sights. It was the whole aesthetic of the new progressive movement, perpetually outraged, culturally exhausted, and proudly pessimistic. The crowd that apologizes for celebrating the 4th of July but throws a 5-minute Instagram reel for National Avocado Day. the ones who think pledging allegiance is fascist, but dropping $300 on ethically sourced candles made by unpaid interns is revolutionary. Maher dismantled them with style, but he didn't stop at culture. He had substance. Because believe it or not, when your entire political messaging boils down to everything sucks and we hate it here, you tend to lose voters who don't enjoy self-flagellation as a hobby. He said the quiet part out loud: you can't win elections by convincing people their country is a dumpster fire wrapped in a flag. That may get applause from faculty lounges and blue-check Twitter, but it doesn't land with average voters, the ones with jobs, families, and enough real-life stress without being told their very existence is problematic.
I don't think I've used the word progressive. I think I've said woke. I think there's a big difference between woke, but words migrate, and it went to something else. I think there's a big difference between an old school liberal and a woke person. You say progressive Democrat. How do you describe this?
I didn't leave the label. It left me. After it happened on October 7th, I was really knew that that whole progressive stack would be blasted apart.
How do you explain that, if you can, that the people who consider themselves the most liberal have abandoned Israel for the people outwardly say they want a genocide? Why do you think that is? And will this split the Democratic Party?
Instead of hope, the Democrats' new message feels like a TED talk written by nihilists but designed in Canva. It's all grievance, no gratitude. All critique, no solutions. And Maher asked, quite reasonably, how is that supposed to build a coalition? Imagine being an average voter and hearing, "This country is awful, and you're part of the problem." Cool, guess I'll vote for the guy who at least pretends to like us. It's like trying to sell a car by yelling, "This thing is a death trap that once ran over a sea turtle." Not a great pitch. But Maher didn't stop at marketing. He went after the entire hollow edifice of modern activism, the kind that renames high schools while kids inside them still can't read. That obsesses over the optics of allyship instead of the substance of policy. The movement that cancels statues faster than it can cancel student loans. He called out the left's addiction to symbolism. It's easier to rage about a mural than repair a water pipe. Trendier to cancel a founding father than balance a budget. And slowly, painfully, Maher has watched as progressives swapped real change for hashtags and bumper sticker revolutions, all drawing from the same poisoned well, the belief that America is fundamentally beyond saving. Maher rejected that idea flat out, not with nostalgia for a perfect past, but with a clear-eyed view of a flawed nation that's still trying. He dared to suggest that maybe, just maybe, you can acknowledge America's faults and its progress, that you can love your country without setting it on fire and rewriting the Constitution on hemp paper.
Let me get back to the border issue politically, because I feel like this is a disaster for the Democrats. They look like sanctuary city hypocrites. They were the ones who said, look, we're the compassionate people. Everybody should get a shot here. And then when they started sending, the quotes from Eric Adams, this is the mayor of liberal New York, "This issue will destroy our city." The governor, "If you're going to leave your country, go somewhere else. Keep walking," is from the governor of New York. They put out a flyer, says, "New York is one of the most expensive cities in the world. You are better off going to a more affordable city."
And for daring to utter something resembling gratitude, Maher practically committed heresy. He knows the drill. Step 1. Criticize the left from inside the house. Step 2. Get labeled a centrist grifter, a crypto-libertarian, or worst of all, a boomer. But Maher doesn't care. He's not applying for a byline at Vox. He doesn't need a seat at the cool kids table where capitalism is condemned in between Uber Eats deliveries. What he does want is a country he can recognize. Because if your entire political identity revolves around being a victim of the system while benefiting from every piece of it, you might just be part of the problem. If you live in a country where you can trash the government without getting disappeared, maybe that's worth mentioning without gagging afterward. And if you're a rising political star who spends more time curating Instagram aesthetics than drafting legislation, don't act surprised when someone like Maher pulls back the curtain and finds a stack of empty slogans where your policy platform should be. Maher isn't romanticizing a mythic America that never was. He's defending an imperfect one that's still standing. He's calling out the fact that constant cynicism isn't leadership, that screaming racism at everything doesn't make you righteous, and that redefining patriotism as a hate crime won't win elections. His critique isn't just cultural, it's strategic. And Maher didn't just point at the problem, he kicked over the whole vegan charcuterie board it was resting on. No incense, no unity chants, just one man saying the obvious. Maybe hating your country 24/7 isn't the power move you think it is. Maybe not everything is oppressive. Maybe being a public servant should involve actual service, not just vibes. In the end, it wasn't a takedown, it was a cleansing fire. And the silence from the usual suspects, deafening. Because maybe, just maybe, it's time someone said it. If your plan is to drag America through the mud, at least have the decency to bring a mop. If your mission is to fix the country, try not to start every sentence with "this place is trash." And if you claim to fight for the people, maybe stop talking like they're brainwashed colonizers who need your enlightenment. Maher delivered it with flair, with wit, and just enough sting to leave a mark. Not because he hates the left, but because he wants it to stop setting itself on fire and asking why it's burning. And in a time where common sense feels radical and gratitude sounds like heresy, that might just be the most revolutionary message of all.